Hi and welcome along to AFTV News Daily, the early edition. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Hope you guys are having a great day and nice weather over here in the UK today. Loving it so far. I was just out on my walk and everything, and it was beautiful out there. Now, hope you're doing great, guys. You're doing great today, guys. Last night's show, I don't know if you got a chance to check it out, but it was really, really good. I had Curtis on and Yardman on. And we were discussing the fact that are Arsenal a big club? Now, a lot of that came on the back of comments from Mikel Arteta, the manager of Arsenal, who did an interview yesterday with Ian Wright. Ian Wright's been doing these interviews with various people in football, with Adidas, and he'd done this interview with Mikel Arteta. And Mikel Arteta in it was good as usual. He always talks a good game, bullish, about Arsenal, and some really, really interesting comments that came out and quotes from him with Mikel Arteta. He really does seem focused on his job at Arsenal, and he does feel that Arsenal are a big club and are a big draw, despite some of the negativity that's been coming out about Arsenal recently, about transfers and things like that. And I was really interested in a lot of his quotes and wanted to get your views on some of them about how you felt. Now, first of all, they spoke to Ian Wright spoke to Mikel Arteta about returning to football, which of course is one of the issues we've been talking about a lot on these various shows. Obviously, there's been no football now for nearly 2 months. We're all desperate for it to come back, but it's how it comes back. And we had this big discussion, me and DT, yesterday on the All Guns Blazing podcast. You got to check that out. There's a really good show, sort of really, him saying that it shouldn't return, me sort of saying that under the right circumstances, I'd love to see it return. Mikel Arteta, this is what he said about football returning. He said, there's a lot of question marks. I think the hardest thing is educating the players and everybody involved at the training grounds and on match days that this is different. We have to be strict with the protocols. Common sense will dictate when we can go to the next step and the next step and so on. We cannot rush it. We're all aiming to play. We need to play and we are willing to play. It's important for society and the economy. We have that responsibility. We just have to be ready for whenever they say go ahead, open that door so that we can hit the gas. So you can see there that Mikel Arteta and the team all willing to come back and play, but he's saying that obviously we've got to take a cautious approach, but they are willing and ready to play. He also went on to talk about how, they're socially distancing on the training ground and stuff like that, how each person's training on their own and individually at the moment. The other one was on Arsenal being a big club and a big draw in the transfer market. Seemed to irritate him a bit when, when people think that we're not a big club. As far as Mikel Arteta is concerned, we are a big club. And speaking to Ian Wright, he said, these are his quotes again. He says, the moment we mention Arsenal, you know what it means around the world. Everybody wants to come here. We have a very clear idea of what we are. It doesn't need much convincing. And if they do, then it's not a good starting point. If I have to convince a player to stay or join us, then I'm a little bit, and then he pauses and he says, it holds me back a little bit. And then he added, it has to be, I want to play for that club. They represent the values and the style of play I want. That's the emotion that I want to see here. Same with the players that are here. What's your feelings? What are the things that you have towards the club? That is what interests me. Now, that's really, really interesting, especially the quote where the two quotes where he says, the moment we mention Arsenal, you know what that means around the world. And when he goes on to say, which, could be a little, he could be talking about Aubameyang here. If I have to convince a player to stay or to join us, then I'm a little bit, and, he's put off by that. What do you guys think of that comment? What do you think of that? Do you think he's right? Do you think that Arsenal are still a big draw? that when Arsenal's mentioned around the world, that players are like, yeah, I want to go there. Yes, Arsenal, of course, big club. And what do you think of those comments where he says, if I have to say to a player, what, you don't want to stay at Arsenal? Or, you're a player at Arsenal. What, you're a player looking to go on a transfer and I'm offering you Arsenal and that's an opportunity. If I need to convince you to come here, that's a problem. It seems a bit simplistic to say that with all what's gone on over the past few years with Arsenal. Remember, we haven't won a title for a very, very long time, and there are other clubs that are seemingly on an upward trajectory. And you look at Arsenal in recent years, and it's been downwards. So, but he still seems very convinced that Arsenal are a big club and a big draw. Would love to get your comments on it. Really would love to get your comments on it. Also, he was talking about Kieran Tierney. Now, remember the other day, I was talking about Kieran Tierney, and I was saying the fact that, he'd been linked with a move to Leicester. Brendan Rodgers interested in Kieran Tierney. He used to be the manager of Kieran Tierney, of course, at Celtic. Ben Chilwell, who they've got at Leicester, could be moving on this summer. There's a lot of clubs looking at him. And if he moves on, the rumours were that Brendan Rodgers might move to bring in Kieran Tierney. Remember, Kieran Tierney hardly played for Arsenal this season, came in for £25 million, and it's just not worked out for him, not for any fault of his own. It's been through injury. Looks really exciting at the start of the season. Bombing down that wing, great at crossing the ball, still got a lot to learn, but definitely looked like a great prospect. Now, Mikel Arteta had a lot to say about Kieran Tierney, and encouraging words for Tierney if you're Kieran Tierney, because as I said, there's been rumours that Arsenal could get rid of him, but it doesn't seem that way when you listen to the words coming out of Mikel Arteta's mouth. And these are his quotes again. He says, "I'm really looking forward to working with him and giving him the opportunity to play. His attitude, his commitment, his willingness is incredible, or it's incredible." He says, "I think he's going to bring something special to us. The injury, has been a shame, but it's part of his development. During your career, you go through these moments. I challenge him to say, Kieran, how are you going to react to that? You can't feel sorry for yourself. This happened. Okay, the level of pressure now is a little bit higher. You have to deal with it. You're playing for a top club." Again, he's saying that. Top expectations, deal with it. You have everything to be successful here. So those are really, really encouraging words from the manager towards Kieran Tierney. And you can see there that he's really excited to work with Tierney. And I think a lot of Arsenal fans will be happy with that because, I think on the whole, every Arsenal fan can see the potential in Kieran Tierney. He was a good signing, in my opinion. It's just been one of those where it's just been very, very unfortunate with injury. There's just nothing you can do about that. The player's injured, he's injured. Let's hope he can get over that because he has been a lot of injuries. He literally came in, remember, when he joined the club, he was injured, right? And then he started playing a few games. Then he's got a few niggles. Then, of course, he dislocated his shoulder and he was out for ages. Would have been due to come back. But, of course, the coronavirus thing has again halted his progress. So he must be desperate to get that Arsenal shirt on and really show people what he can do. And I think he will come good. And I'm glad that Mikel Arteta's feeling that way. And it certainly seems to me that puts to bed any rumours of Kieran Tierney going to Leicester. Also linked today with a player from Bayern Munich, young player. It's not one of the mega stars at Bayern Munich. Here you can see him playing in a pre-season friendly, tackling Mesut Ozil there. Remember when Mesut had the blonde hair? But his name is Angelo Stiller. He plays for Bayern Munich. He's only 19. Bayern Munich youth player. Hasn't played a first-team game yet. But according to Bild, the German publication, Arsenal are interested in signing him. As left-footed defensive midfielder, very, very talented. Lots of people talking about him as a future full first team Bayern Munich player, but he's only got 1 year left on his contract, a bit like Saka, sort of that Saka situation. And as I said, 19, only just I think he turned 19 in April. So he's still a very young player. And Arsenal said to be interested in bringing him to the Emirates. This could be the way, as we've been saying for quite a while, that this could be the way for Arsenal to be bringing in players, which is like young talent that they can then develop into being top players. Certainly with our limited budget at the moment. But Arsenal said to be interested in him. I don't know a lot about him. You know what? I would have seen him play in that game because I was at that game, right? That you see in the picture there. But I have to say, it doesn't. It's not like it's stuck in my memory, and I remember him precisely. I suppose I was looking at all the big superstar players at Bayern on that day, and not sort of looking at the young players. But certainly, Arsenal scouts have been looking at him, and they like what they see, and they'd like to bring him in, possibly at the Emirates. So let's see how that one develops out. Right, time to get into your comments, and as I said, some great, lots of comments coming in regarding the what Mikel Arteta said. Are Arsenal still a big club? That is the question I'd love to ask you guys today. Principal question. Camille, first of all, with a super chat, he says, Robbie, we are not a big club. We are the best of the rest. If you take away City, United, Chelsea, Liverpool, we have 3 FA Cups in 15 years. Let's be real, right? So he's saying that we're not a big club. Marv Basco says, no, Robbie, we are not a big club because we cannot sign some of the top players. Or Nicolas Pepe was a top player, wasn't he? We signed him. You know, Nicolas Pepe could have went to many other top clubs around Europe, chose to come to Arsenal. That was a big signing. So, well, why not? You know, no, we can sign top players. Aubameyang's a top player. Lacazette's a top player. Ricky says, hey, Robbie, it's Ricky again. If I was the Premier League, I would take action and void the season and do not give Liverpool the title and don't have any relegation for the bottom 3 clubs. But the top 3 championship clubs come up to the Premier League. So Ricky's still keen on that happening. Listen, the thing is at the moment, they're trying their hardest to get the season completed. And like Mikel Arteta said, you know, we're going to have to wait and see. But Arsenal, as a team, they're ready to go as soon as they say, let's play. And he said there, all the players want to play. And I think that must be the general feeling amongst the players. Once they know conditions are safe, or as safe as they can be, I would have thought that every player would be wanting to play football. PV says we have a small club mindset and cling onto our history. So not a lot of support from Mikel at the moment. Yam says, all good having a great coach and backroom staff, but players don't have enough quality and the owner doesn't invest even £10 and been a gooner since 1980. So he's not feeling it being a big club either. Gunnar says, the name is a big club, but the project is a small club. Fair enough, fair enough. Soam says, if Aubameyang and Lacazette leave, would you buy someone to replace them or invest the money in centre-backs, right-backs, a holding midfielder, an attacking midfielder, and play Martinelli and Saka up top? Well, I think if both Lacazette and Aubameyang left, you'd have to buy a striker. We would definitely need to buy a striker. So for me, yes, if both of those goes, you have to buy a striker. Valerie says, Arsenal are not a big club anymore. Only Arsenal fans think so. I still think Arsenal are a big club. It's a big club going through a bad time. Just like Liverpool. Liverpool, 4 or 5 years ago and beyond, were a big club going through poor times. Remember, Liverpool have never won. As big as Liverpool are, and I would say, listen, this is before this season and last season when Liverpool won the Champions League, or Liverpool were on the verge of winning the title this season, Super Cup. This is before that. Liverpool have not won the Premier League in their history. They've won leagues, but they've never won since the inception of the Premier League. They have never won it. They've not won a league title for 30 years. But in my eyes, even during that period, Liverpool are still a big club. if you're a big name and Liverpool come to buy you, you'd still think of going to Liverpool, right? And they still had some big players. They still had guys like Xavi Alonso. They still had guys like Luis Suarez and people like that going to them. So Liverpool have always, even through their poor period, were a big club. Now with planning, with excellent planning, it hasn't been through mega money because, you know, all right, I know, and we spoke about this on the show last night. I know they spent a lot of money in recent times on Van Dijk and Coutinho. On Van Dijk and Alisson, but they got that money through selling Coutinho. They've been smart. They've had a plan and they've executed the plan well, and they're now back to where they want to be. But even during the poor periods for Liverpool, they were still a big club. They're still an attraction. If a team came in for you and said, Liverpool are interested, your ears would prop up and you'd be like, yeah, okay. Because you know about the history of the club, you know about the size of the fan base worldwide. So that's why I look on it, and I agree with Arteta in one aspect that Arsenal are still a big club. However, as many of you are saying, we need to start acting like that. This gentleman says, no, Arsenal are not a big club anymore. The name only exists. But the spirit of winning mentality is dead. Arsenal were a dead club since owned by the crazy American owner, and only Arsenal fans think so. And I think Arteta's trying to change the mentality, isn't it? That's one of the reasons why he's talking in that way, because he's trying to talk it into the players and say, yo, you are at a big club. You, the players, were brought in here to operate like big players, right? This is a big club. And if you don't operate in that way, off you go. Lord Supastro says, Kroenke is killing the club. We need a DT to campaign. He loves the campaign, that kid. John MB says, Robbie, we signed Aubameyang to replace Alexis. We should be signing Aubameyang to add to Sanchez to build a brilliant team. We never improve. We're just replacing. We need to add to our best players. 100%. 100%. Tyler says, we might not have won lots of things recently, but we still have a big reputation. That's true. You know, I used the example last night on the show of when I was on a summer tour. We went to Singapore. Or was it China? But I remember we was playing PSG and Arsenal were playing, right? And what they do on a lot of these pre-season things is the two teams train at the ground that they're going to play at, and they do like an open training session. So they did this open training session, and Arsenal were training first, right? When Arsenal were training, I'm telling you, there must have been about 10,000 people there, right? Then the training session for Arsenal finished. Then PSG came out. Now, you could still stay if you wanted to watch PSG, because there was PSG fans in there and Arsenal fans. But most of the Arsenal fans decided to leave. There was nobody left. There was nobody left there. Everybody was gone because everybody there were Arsenal fans. And that just showed me the size of the club. Everywhere Arsenal go around the world, I was in America in the summer, the support is amazing. The support is absolutely incredible. In Africa, you know, you've got support all over Africa, all over Asia, all over Europe, all over this country, all over America. It's huge, huge. But the mentality of the owner is that huge. Got a super chat here. Can't get it up on the screen, but this one is from Camille. He says, I love Mikel. He himself that said that Arsenal are not Arsenal anymore. There's a difference between changing the mentality of a club, telling players we are a big club, and improving the quality of the club and actually winning trophies. Yes, there is. But first of all, you've got to start with the players that you got. And the players that you've got have got to believe that they're playing for a big club. Because if you're playing for a big club, you can't be walking around with you know, feeling sorry for yourself. Let me give you an example. There'll be some players moaning about getting criticised at Arsenal. Oh, people are always criticising me. You're at a big club. The scrutiny goes up 10 times. It's not the same as when you're playing for a small club in the Bundesliga, or when you're playing for a mid-sized club in the Premier League, when you play at Arsenal, expect, I think these are some of the things that Arteta's telling them. Because remember, he said, I'm trying to bring the fans and the players and that together. So if I was in charge at Arsenal, I'd be saying to these players, when you play for Arsenal, expect a higher level of criticism. You play for Man United, expect a higher level of criticism. Same at Chelsea, same at Man City, same at Liverpool, same at Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich. These are big clubs. A mistake that you make in a game playing for Southampton is not really going to get talked about beyond that day, right? That mistake at Arsenal could get talked about for the next 2 weeks. But you know what? That's because it's a big club and you're under a lot of scrutiny, a huge fan base. Andrew says, do you think Aubameyang will stay getting asked that every day? I think he will. Pedro says, Robbie, we are a big club. We're just going through a rebuild. Have patience. So that's positive. That's positive. Off says, I can see Arsenal heading somewhere under Mikel Arteta. I know it won't be overnight, but I'm hoping for big things. So people still feeling what he's saying there. Studio Hook says, let's all support the Dennis Bergkamp-led consortium to buy a Premier League club. Bergkamp is cronky out, as we know that, right? What are your thoughts? He would make us a big club. I've seen that Dennis Bergkamp is involved in a consortium looking to buy a Premier League club. Whether it's looking to buy a club as big as Arsenal, I'm not sure, but I have seen that, read about that. Peter Weaver says, big club in every way, but competitively, we need to aim higher. Unfortunately, us as fans need to be more like Blackpool or Newcastle fans. It takes years. I'll tell you what, I remember meeting those Blackpool fans, man. They were resilient, but they did get there in the end. Let's get this one. Kingsley Opera says, Arsenal are a big club for sure. Still bigger club than City. We just need a better owner who can invest in the club properly. That's an interesting question. Who's a bigger club? Arsenal, and this is going to sound weird to some people, but I'm going to ask this. Arsenal or Manchester City, what does make a big club? So who's a bigger club, Arsenal or Manchester City? Putting it out there to you guys. Mr. Yellow Melon said, Robbie literally excluded their man down the road while calling out the big six a moment ago. Tottenham haven't won anything. Are Tottenham a big club? Being honest, I think they're just below that. I think they're trying to operate like a big club. They've just built a new stadium. They've had a good team over the last few years. They've been in the Champions League. So they've been operating like a big club, but they have not won anything in such a long time that it's really hard to classify them as one of the big clubs. Arsenal are a big club. I know this guy, right, who sells merchandise, right, official merchandise for lots and lots of clubs, right? Premier League, Spain, Italy. He sells merchandise, got an online business where he sells merchandise. And I remember the guy telling me one day, he goes, Robbie, he said, Arsenal merchandise is one of his best sellers. Even, and this is when we was talking at that time, that was sort of Wenger times when things were bad, right? Towards the end of Wenger's reign, right? And he said, he goes, Robbie, he goes, I will sell like 50 pieces of Arsenal merchandise to every one bit of Tottenham merchandise. Arsenal are a much bigger club. Now, if we don't pull our socks up and, you know, clubs like Tottenham start catching us up, right? That is what happens over a period of years. But Arsenal are a big club. Great point by Mark, though. Kevin Markey says big clubs don't lose players year in, year out. Well, I think that's a case of what a lot of people have been saying is the fact that I know it's a big club. You know it's a big club. The guy in America, I'm not too sure if he knows there's a big club, like it's big, it's worth a lot. But I don't think he understands what running a big club means. That's what I think. Adam Cordell says, Robbie, we are a big club. We've won the most FA Cups, been in the Champions League for 20 years, have fans in every country in the world, and we've had an invincible team. Arteta will be back. So he makes some great points there. Jamsev says, big club in every way apart from performing on the pitch. Getting some more in here. Been great comments coming in from you guys. Christopher says, Newcastle is once a good club. Obviously, he's saying once they were great. They're coming back now with the ownership that they're going to have. Dubs the Devil says, Robbie, are Leeds a big club? Is Nottingham Forest a big club? Why are we at one point not anymore? If we rely on our historic reputation over our current reputation, we will follow them. Of course, those two were big clubs. They haven't done nothing for such a long time that I suppose, you know, they're no longer up that bracket. But also listen, if you go to somebody and you say, you go to you go to a player and you ask them, you know, you want to go to Leeds, you want to go to Nottingham Forest, of course they're going to say no. You ask them if they want to go to Arsenal, top players still consider Arsenal a big move. We may not be operating like that, but it's still a big move for top players. Daniel says, hi, Robbie. We are Arsenal Football Club and always be the biggest club around the world. Salute the players who've always played the game for Arsenal, and Arsenal have the biggest fans around the world. So that's somebody there who still thinks that we're a mega club. Santos says, the moment we dropped out of the top four, we looked like a small club. Big up Arsene Wenger for keeping us in the top four with a tight budget. He did do that for many years, although towards the end, I think we're reaping a lot of the problems now from Arsene Wenger and Gazidis, things like poor transfers. One of the things that were Arsene Wenger's failings towards the end of his tenure was the transfers, and we have been suffering from that. Players that move on for nothing. I mean, Ramsey. I saw Ramsey today being linked with, imagine that, we sold him for, well, need to sell him. He moved from Arsenal for nothing. After all that year's service, after him being a top player, we got no money for him. He went to Juventus. Now Juventus are talking about using Ramsey, according to speculation, in a swap deal to get Pogba. That's a guy that left our club for nothing. You know, how can that be? Camille again with a super chat. He says, I agree that players are too soft about being criticised. Casillas was given no farewell at Real and left the club through the back door due to his performance before he left. How can our players complain compared to that? They complain too much, in my opinion. You know, I've heard players moaning, oh, players, people on my back. The time with Xhaka, when he came off the pitch and he's having a go at the fact, you're at a big club. Right? It is the way it is. The expectations of the fans, especially the fans that pay the highest season ticket prices in Europe, the expectations of those fans are high. You came for a lot of money, £35 million with a big reputation. If you're not producing at a club like Arsenal, fans are going to get on your back at every club, but it's compounded when you're at those really big clubs. You heard the other day when I was chatting to Drifty, when he was telling me that at first fans used to be on Jordan Henderson's back hardcore, but he fought his way through. He didn't, you know, weren't there arguing, cussing off fans. He got his head down and said, I'm at a big club. I need to show these fans that I'm worthy of being here. And he has proven that. He told me about Lovren, the stick that he gets sometimes. So it happens at all big clubs. It's not always right. Don't get me wrong. It's not always right, but it happens. You're at a big club. That's what I think Arteta's trying to instill this into these guys. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Get your head up. Look at the badge that you're wearing and get out there and perform. Gonna do a few more. Sorry, we've done that one already. Mr. Yellow Melon says, Robbie, imagine the African guy buys Arsenal and Mikel Arteta as manager and coaching staff, including Henry, Vieira, Adams to coach, Martinelli, Torreira, Saliba, and the owner investing. A dream. It does sound like a dream. It does sound like a dream. And even if Dangote came in, you know, as the owner, he's still going to have to be smart with how he does things. You know, there's still financial fair play. Hashtag 81194 says, hey, Robbie, good morning from Nigeria. I know it's probably going to be hard to believe, but I go to school with Dangote's grandnephew and he supports City. We're always talking about Arsenal declining. Well, you know, it's not a surprise that people are supporting City because they're winning. I asked that question. No one's really answered it yet. I haven't seen an answer to that. Who's a bigger club, Manchester City or Arsenal? Right, a couple minutes to answer that one. Robbie G says, as a Spurs fan, we know we aren't a big club. We're just under being a big club. All we need is to win something, and we are a big club. Arsenal is and most likely will be bigger for a big amount of time. So at least he's being honest there. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that Spurs, you can't consider Spurs a bigger club than Arsenal. I'm sorry, because they just haven't won nothing. They're making strides, unfortunately, but they are. They're making strides on an upward trajectory, but can't consider them yet a big club. Cannot until, if they'd have won that Champions League last season, then that's it. They're big, you know. On the Man City Arsenal thing, Kaylee says, James says Manchester City. Raza Khan says Arsenal, right? So, you know, we're going to get a couple more. Carby says City. We can't keep living in the past. City are winning domestic trebles and going far in the Champions League. So he thinks City. Kevin says Arsenal. It's mixed. George says Arsenal are a bigger club, City are a richer club. Fair enough, fair enough. Andrea says we're a bigger club, but I would swap nearly everything with Man City right now. I hear you on that one. Best in the World one says, I think overall around the world, City is much more supported by the younger generation. They have big players that attracts new fans, unfortunately. That is a point, is that, you know, young fans do start to gravitate around the world to those fans that are to those teams that are winning. Santosh says Manchester City with a big budget and trophies is currently a big club. If you go by history, Arsenal is bigger than Manchester City. And finish with this one. Nanny says, Robbie, I never thought we'd be discussing that we are a big club. We are a big club. So thank you for that last word there. Thanks for watching the show today. Hope you've enjoyed the show this morning. We will be back this evening. We should have on Chris Hudson. So that should be really interesting. Chris always got some great points of view. So look out for the show tonight, 8 o'clock tonight. Chris Hudson on live. And I know he's got a lot to say. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back later.